average consumer, the average property owner really gets kind of inside of a silo. They get insight inside of from one professional at a time. They get insight. And as a consumer, the average property owner really gets kind of, that's fun, inside of a silo. They get insight.
It's streaming on YouTube.
There we go. There's multiple of me. That's kind of scary. But inside of this, when you're an average property owner and you get insight from a financial advisor, and from a lender and from a real estate agent, and all of a sudden you've got a number of very talented professionals who are giving you expert advice. But when it's not collaborative, when it's not coming from a place of collaboration with other areas of your life and other professionals and the advice that they're giving, it can be a bit disjointed. And for the average consumer, the average household, it can be a bit confusing, and they're kind of picking and choosing which professional do we listen to. And it's only when you have the opportunity to get professionals collaborating at a high level do you really experience what we would say would be oftentimes the unique benefit of the uber wealthy. And what I mean by that is that the uber wealthy have what's called a family office. And a family office is in which if you are worth $50 million or above, you have a team of professionals around you that can really give you a unique insight, unique collaborative advice. And because most households don't get that opportunity, they don't get the same the same progress forward as the uber wealthy. And so tonight we're changing that. We're bringing, again, what's normally reserved for the uber wealthy down to Main Street, down to the rest of us, to really give you a collaborative experience. Now, these professionals know each other. They work very closely together. They refer each other. And so just know that the advice that we are sharing tonight is coming from professionals who again, work very well together. So anyway, excited to be with you all. Let's go ahead and get started. We have a lot to cover tonight, and I know we have some people just joining us. So for those of you that are just joining us, welcome. We're glad that you're here. We did a bit of an intro as to what we're going to be covering tonight.
So I trust Justin.
Thank you. This again, if you're just joining us, welcome. Again, for those that have been here, I hope this isn't redundant, but we have chosen top professionals in this particular community, this particular area of Portland. And we've asked them to come together this evening to share their time and expertise. And they're going to be giving us insight around this very special topic, this very important topic, this weighty topic of how to prepare for retirement in uncertain times. So I'm thrilled to have them all here. I'll do my best to keep my eye on the lobby if others are coming in. For those that are watching the recording or those that are watching the live stream on YouTube, welcome. We're glad that you're here as well. We'll do our best to check back to see if you have any other questions. For those that are here with us on Zoom, we will ask that if you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat. I will do my best to see that and to bring it before this incredible group and get your questions answered. So with no further ado, let me just take a minute here and introduce to you who's all here. I will say that we have these important industries covered: real estate, wealth management, like financial investing. We have insurance, we have tax, and we have mortgage lending. So again, that is pretty rare to have that group of professionals surrounded around you, giving you advice. So again, if you've ever wondered, how do I prepare for retirement in uncertain times? This is a pretty unique experience that would be pretty costly to try and duplicate. So we're fortunate to have you here, and we're excited to spend some time with you kind of walking through this particular topic. So with that being said, let me do my best to introduce each of these professionals. And I have a few notes here. I feel like I know them all very personally, but they have helped me with just a couple bio points so that I can really give you an appreciation for who's here. So I'll start with Charles Chambry. Maybe kind of wave your hand, Charles Chambry, so we know who the insurance professional in the room is. Maybe some of you have seen Charles on TV. He's actually an international TV and radio host, actually a best-selling author, and he's been serving in insurance for over 15 years as an insurance broker. So Charles Chambry, great to have you here. Thanks again for your commitment to this audience tonight.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Let's now go to Dominic Alvarez. Dominic has been in B2B sales his entire career, and now actually as a mortgage professional for the past number of years, has actually risen to become a branch manager. So he's not only leading his clients, he's now leading other professionals. He really understands this industry at that level. So Dominic's going to really help us understand how being a mortgage loan officer really ties in with preparing for retirement. Dominic, please wave your hand. It's good to have you here as well.
Thanks for having me, Justin. Excited to be here with everybody.
Love it, man. All right. Our next panelist tonight is Chrissy Bergeron. Chrissy is a senior tax accountant at Formations, and Chrissy is in her 16th tax season and is still standing to tell the tale. I know that's not easy on our wonderful tax professionals. And the fact that she's here tonight in the middle of tax season just shows her commitment to giving back to this important cause. So thank you for being here, Chrissy.
Thanks, Justin. I'm excited to be here.
All right. And we have now Charles Ramsey. Charles, and we had to actually kind of validate this because he said he's a fourth generation real estate agent. And I said, for fourth generation? Oh my goodness. You're like your great grandpa or grandma was a real estate professional. And he validated. He's like, yes. And actually went by the name of Charles Ramsey. So this is not only in his, on his resume, but it's in his blood to be helping people with real estate. He's been doing it for 26 years, has helped thousands of people. And he's now risen to be the managing state broker of a very innovative real estate company called Epic Realty. And it's epic indeed to have you here with us, Charles Ramsey. Thanks for, again, committing your time to benefit our audience tonight. And last and definitely not least, we have Suja Sham. She is a real estate syndicate specialist. I've had the good fortune actually of having Suja on my podcast, and she's very bright at this. And for those that are unfamiliar with real estate syndication, it really allows the common investor who wouldn't be able to have the funds to go invest and purchase a big apartment complex by themselves. It allows them to pool their funds together to be able to invest in very stable, predictable passive income streams like, again, multifamily real estate. So she also has a top-rated podcast, so she's an excellent communicator as well. Suja, thank you for your time tonight and being here.
Really great to be here, Justin. Thanks.
I love it. Again, for those that are just joining, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. Tonight's topic, again, is preparing for retirement in uncertain times.
I'm good.
There's no doubt that, the economy for many has been challenging over the past couple of years, that inflation rates, et cetera. And again, we are here to serve this community, to serve those that are listening live and the many, many more that will be listening to this recording after the fact. And we want to give you some very tactical strategies and ideas on what you can be doing from two different perspectives. So we're really going to speak to two kind of avatars tonight. The first is that person or household who is 5 to 10 years out from retirement. And they're really looking at, what can I be doing right now to give myself the best chance at being prepared for retirement? So we'll talk about that. We'll give everyone, all of our experts here tonight, the opportunity to speak to that topic with some collaboration among them.
You have my phone.
And then assuming we have time, we're also going to be asking for those, maybe that younger crowd that is maybe just getting started on their retirement preparation journey. And we're going to ask each of the professionals tonight what somebody who is either in the early stages of their preparation, or maybe they're helping, a younger generation, whether it's children, whether it's nieces and nephews, what they can be doing to help either themselves and or others be prepared for retirement when they have kind of a longer runway to be prepared for it. So how does that sound, panelists? Give me a thumbs up if we're all ready to rock and roll. Okay, good. Look at that little bubble over my head there. That's fun. Okay, so I'm excited to be here. So I'm just going to start in the top left-hand corner of my screen. I'm not playing favorites in any way. It's just the way you're showing up for me. So I'm gonna talk to Charles Ramsey, our real estate specialist, multi-generational real estate specialist. Charles, when you think about this topic of preparing for retirement and the topic of real estate, what's some of the advice that you give to those who are maybe 5 to 10 years out from retirement?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. I come across that often, and it's not an accident that I'm in real estate for the last 20 plus years. It's on purpose because it is a vehicle that allows me to help other people seek and achieve their dreams. They are able to fund their retirement if they start early or even if they start late. And there's several different ways they can do that. It just depends on really their temperament, how much they're okay with a little bit of risk. You can also buy and hold, which is a lot less risky because real estate has performed really well over the years. But I can go into some examples if you like.
Please. I think that would be great. I believe that those that are in the audience, whether again live or listening after the fact, will probably relate to any stories that you have. And again, we'll maybe just ask for one to start, so we can hear from the others as well. But like, is there a story that stands out to you, Charles, of someone who again was 5 to 10 years out from retirement, and they came to you and said, "Hey, we've got some money, right? What should we be doing with it?" Anything stand out to you?
So a lot of people come to mind, and a frequent discussion is how do we downsize and still love our new home? Because it's easy to downsize into something you don't like. I've had people go from 6,000 square foot homes on multiple city lots into a condo that's 1,200 square feet. And it's challenging. You have to do that. You have to do that right. But you can fund other investments by flipping properties. And you don't have to be an expert at flipping properties yourself. You have to put together a team of people who know how to collaborate, who love the idea of helping you thrive. So that's really a metric that I wouldn't sacrifice anything on. I wouldn't, if there's someone who isn't absolutely committed to making sure you reach your goals, they're off the team. And it's great if you have a bunch of people who know each other and can interact. I think it's rare. You're welcome to use this team that you're seeing tonight. But I have the story that came to mind when you asked that question is the other end of the spectrum. If you don't mind me changing up the question, because that's just very clear. So a young man wants to go into being a physical therapist at a very high level, needs to fund that schooling, and had never flipped a property before. I was able to negotiate $75,000 off the asking price, which is unusual in this market. This was just last year. And then he did some of the work, and then he hired out the work that he didn't know how to do using my crew. I was in construction before real estate, and ended up making, he sold the property for $108,000 more than he paid, and it was 7 months later. So that enables him to then fund his schooling, put some money down into retirement accounts, start a SEP. He's 22 years old. So it's literally life-changing.
And I would imagine that, Charles, that scenario could work for somebody at any age, right? It's not like that investment took a lot of time. It just took the confidence in having the right real estate agent helping him identify the right deal, negotiate the right terms, and then the right team to be sure that the work got done within budget and quickly, right? So the interest in
they had a great time. It was a young couple, and I would stop by to see how things were going, like once or twice a week. One time I went over and they were painting the exterior, and there was more paint on them than on the side of the house. They got into some kind of a paint fight with brushes and rollers, and they were having a good time.
So depending upon someone's appetite, maybe not just for risk, but for some adventure, it sounds like is maybe a qualification that people would have to check off that box as well. Very good. Well, thank you for that. Again, I do think that there is a trend of people wanting to downsize, right? Especially if there's multiple levels, and you kind of identified that, of people being willing to go from a bigger home that maybe they've raised a family in into a more simple home. And with that comes some opportunities to invest in other things. Let's talk to Suja, if you wouldn't mind for just a minute. I would imagine, again, keeping on this kind of theme of people who are 5 to 10 years out. Let's say that Charles Ramsey helps them to sell a bigger home, and they're sitting on some cash, right? Talk to us about maybe what somebody at that stage of life who maybe isn't interested in having the paint fight with the spouse, and maybe want something a little more mild. How might you approach that person, and how might kind of your strategies help them?
Great question, Justin. Well, actually, the person I was going to talk about actually happens to have been a client of Charles many times before. He's an investor of mine. And I was just asking the other day, how has investing in real estate syndications helped you semi-retire? Because he is about that 5 to 10 years out from a typical retirement age. And he's basically semi-retired. He said, oh my gosh, it's helped me so much. And I think why it's helped me. So what I do is I help people invest passively in real estate investments, right? So if you're someone who maybe doesn't want to actively invest in real estate, meaning have the paint fight, but you want to own real estate and have it be part of your investment portfolio and actually create passive income, then we can craft a strategy for you. And what this person said is, I'm invested in a variety of different types of deals, because we don't just do multifamily, we also do self-storage and short-term rentals and industrial and other types of cash flowing real estate. And he has enough of a variety that the cash flow is consistent, and it creates so much passive income for him that he's been able to drastically scale back his real estate construction activities. And simultaneously, it's given him so many tax benefits that he pays almost no income tax. So real estate syndications are a great way to transition from that active real estate investing where you're hands-on managing the property. Say you're tired of doing that, or you've never done it before, then getting it into real estate investments through syndications is a great way to take advantage of that. And we also get oftentimes really great returns. So for those investors who are usually approaching retirement age, usually they're more interested in income producing investments. And we are usually targeting around a 10% return for those types of investments. So, oftentimes if you're thinking about, well, how much cash flow can I count on? If you're doing it through real estate syndications, we can often count on or produce a 10% return.
Which is pretty uncommon in today's market, right? Looking at the other investment vehicles that are out there. That's great.
Exactly.
I'd love to ask Chrissy, who's our senior tax specialist. Obviously you are, and for those that don't know, Formations, which is the company that she represents tonight, they're in the business in particular in helping oftentimes small business owners, those who have 1099 type income, that or they own the business. When you see people like these two strategies that you've heard already, Chrissy, are there some things that people should be aware of, or kind of reinforcing even what's been said from kind of a avoiding a unnecessary tax liability standpoint?
Well, I mean, we just work with, we call it the dream team, and we try to make sure that whatever the goals are of our clients that are wanting to retire, 5, 10, 15, 20 years out, that we're connecting them with, people like Suja who want to invest, who want to do all of this, and help them make sure that their tax liability is lower. And there are other ways that we can manage that on our end. But being proactive with what our clients are doing is what's going to help them the most in making sure that they're saving what they want, their goals are met, and just, making sure that their situation tax-wise each year before they retire and after they retire is what is going to be a comfortable situation for that client to be in.
I heard it said, I think this, go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in there. Yeah, so to add to the cash, at least the tax benefit, There's a plan, universal life insurance plan that I think is important, that I think would help. So great thing about universal life insurance policy is that it grows tax-free, the cash value. So with tax benefits, I think that's a good one to look into.
Yeah, I love that. And I think one of the most important things I've learned as I've been around really bright people, like I'm fortunate to be around this evening, is that, the greatest asset that we have in some regards is our ability to earn income, right? So when we speak about life insurance, right, it really protects that. Also from a tax standpoint, many times people don't have the right strategies in place to be able to protect the earned income and shelter it from, again, unnecessary taxes. And so if you can look at, again, your ability to earn income that then produces enough extra that you can invest in intelligent things, as both of our Charleses tonight, as well as Suji, have talked about, I think that the tax becomes a very foundational piece to that, because you end up finding additional ways to preserve more income that then you can invest in. And Charles Chambry, your concept, right, of having an investment vehicle tied to a life insurance product is, very intertwined within all of that. Love that. Would you talk to us a little bit about that, Charles Chambry, about what that looks like and why somebody who's even 5 to 10 years out from retirement, right? So I have one of those policies. I recognize the value, being a little further out from retirement.
Right.
But if you could talk us through someone who's a little bit closer to that, because I know that the closer you get to the end of life insurance goes up. But what I hear you saying is that even if you're, closer to retirement, that particular vehicle can still be attractive. Is that?
Yeah. So you make a good point. So I the life insurance policy that the universal life insurance is at best the younger that you are. So it's wise to get it. Again, the younger you are, as you get older, it increases, the rate increases. The universal life insurance policy is a plan that covers your whole life. As you look at retirement, the benefit is that it has cash value. That cash value generates it generates with no tax liability. On top of that, it generates 6 to 12% on interest on that life insurance policy. Some other benefits is that it has a living benefit and a death benefit. So if you pass away, there's a benefit that goes to your family if you pass away. The living benefit goes to if you develop cancer, heart attack, and stroke. The other benefit, like I said before, is that it gives you cash value. So that part is the retirement piece and what's relevant to this whole discussion. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, and even more so, I guess the part that I'm interested in, and again, if anyone that's in our audience tonight has more questions about any of this, please, I encourage you to either put it in the chat.
Can I add something there too?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so one of the other great benefits is that you can get multiple plans. I have a friend that has about 5 or 6 plans like that. And so it's set as like a retirement, like I shouldn't say retirement, but it's more of an asset. He has several assets stacked away with these universal life insurance plans. So I think that would be the route. If you can afford it, get more than one. And only that, you can get them attached to your children. So it doesn't really have a fixed rate on the age. But again, you can get several plans out for kids, several plans on yourself, which the life insurance becomes an asset for you and for your family.
And Charles, can you just talk about that how you're funding that's with pre-tax income?
Yeah, so the like I said, the cash value grows tax-free. So that would be the benefit there. And yeah. Did that answer your question?
But when you're funding it, it's pre-tax, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So especially if you have it as an employer, so let's say if you have an employer, you can get because you can actually get the IUL through an employer, it grows. It does grow tax-free, and you do get those tax benefits deferred.
Suja, I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on it. I know in a conversation we've had before is that many of the people that come and invest in your particular syndicated deals will actually pull money from a life insurance policy. Is that safe to say, and maybe help with our audience listening in to say, okay, I've got these great professionals here. And it sounds like there's some ideas that really dovetail here, right? So somebody, for example, sells a home with Charles Ramsey, right? Gets great tax advice from Chrissy on kind of the proceeds of that. Maybe invest some of that into a whole life insurance policy that then turns into an opportunity to potentially buy another flip property. And Dominic, we're going to get to you here in just a minute on I know that's a question that a lot of people have right now, but let's go to Suja and then to Dominic. When you're taking money from a whole life insurance policy like that, is there anything to be aware of or careful about, or any insight you have as you've worked with people that use those tools together?
For sure. So what I've noticed is a lot of really savvy real estate investors use correctly structured life insurance policies that Charles is going to help you with to be their own bank. And so they are able to put their savings into a life insurance policy, which creates all these benefits like Charles is talking about, generates a return of around 6% or possibly greater. And at the same time, it produces a cash value. So you can use it like a savings account in a sense that's actually producing a much higher rate of return. At the same time, you can take money out of it and invest it in real estate syndications or anything else. You can do whatever you please with it. But a lot of real estate investors choose to take their cash value and invest it in real estate syndications because they really like investing in real estate. And they know that they want to have more control over their investments. And also, there are certain types of life insurance policies where you can fund it pre-tax. And so if you're the type of person who's a highly compensated employee, or you have a fair amount of money that you want to know what you can, a fair amount of income, then you can actually invest it in this life insurance policy. And it's pre-tax and it grows tax-free. If it's the right kind, you have to make sure that it's structured correctly for your situation. So it can do a lot to guard against taxes. And at the same time, you have control over that money so that you can invest it as you so choose, and then simultaneously get all these other benefits. And then, as Charles said, you can have multiple life insurance policies if you're set up to do that.
I love it. And yeah, one thing that I've learned about those is that there's a lot of liability protection, right? When it's a life insurance policy, heaven forbid something happen, to you or your family or your business, people can't come claim your life insurance policy, right? It's an asset that's protected from liability, at least at some level. Dominic, yeah, you got your hand up, please. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this.
Yeah. So to kind of add in, I think these go perfectly into everybody's products here, right? Of course, on the lending side, it's all managing debt, right? Nobody wants to have debt. And as we continue to get closer to retirement, we want to lower the amount of debt we have as much as possible. So I'm going to start off kind of like near the end when we're getting close to retirement. One thing that a lot of people normally use as a tool, which is a home equity line of credit, they usually use sometime along their life to maybe do renovations on the house or to, put a down payment on a new property. One thing that is really important to think about is once you enter into retirement, right, your active income goes from, let's just say, you're at the end of your career, you're making $120,000, but when you're going into retirement, maybe your draw is only coming out at $5,500 per month. Sure, your expenses are lower, but now so is your active income. So one thing that we try to guide people to do is when you're nearing that retirement stage, and it's literally down to a month before you're ready to say goodbye, go and look at opening that home equity line of credit, because now you have a 10-year draw period, meaning you don't have to touch it. You don't have to pull any of that debt out, but it does one of two things. It safeguards you in the future. If you're near retirement, you've probably gone through several periods, of a rough economy or had your own personal or family emergency where money was needed. Now you have the lowest interest, possible on debt when you're pulling from there, rather than putting it on cards, bringing out a personal loan. You're in the single digit, interest rates compared to double digit when those emergency arises. And now you have yourself covered for the next 10 years. And the other big one is now you have that open for investment opportunities. So Suja was mentioning how, they're offering 10% returns on some of these products. Charles is mentioning 6 to 12% returns. Ramsey hasn't talked yet about, that cash flow, but cash flow can be into the double digits as well. And what's really awesome about a HELOC is, like, for example, when we went through those, historic lows of 3s and 4s 2-3 years ago, when I was just really getting into, offering this product, having a fixed HELOC rate was slightly higher instead of the adjustable, but we said, hey, lock it in now at a fixed year draw period. They were at 5.5%. Now you can imagine now that everybody who's offering investment opportunities that are like, now that the market's gone back up, Suja's offering 10% on return on her REIT. You're able to take that money out still at a fixed 5%, pump it right into there where you're cash flowing enough to not only pay back that debt, and now you have a positive 4.5% on borrowed debt, right? So you have rich dad, poor dad saying, as long as you're leveraging good debt, it's a positive thing. And so that's one huge tool I think that people overlook when they're getting right close to retiring, because afterwards, when your income decreases, that amount you may qualify for to open decreases as well. And then, of course, the other part, that we can go into a little more on some of the other questions is just being able to use your house. Most people who are getting ready for retirement have built up some equity in their home. You want to look at that similar to Ramsey's insurance policy and similar to Suja's REITs, where you've now built this balance. When it comes to getting money lent out, your private or your personal residence is your lowest, one of the lowest rates you can get when it comes to borrowing money. So a lot of people look at, I want to start getting into rentals. I'm going to put the bare minimum down on a rental. Well, guess what? Your interest rate on a rental property is 3 to 4% higher, interest. Why not pull more money out of your primary where you have that lower interest rate? And then your net benefit of, how much money you're saving, even though the debt is now on the house, you're ending up with a higher cash flow. And so I just encourage people to look at your house, not as, I do know that, hey, your home is important, but if you can leverage that debt on your primary, that you've been building that equity, you have the ability to go out and purchase those rental properties and increase your cash flow, because not only getting that passive income, but that equity, so that down the line, you can be selling off properties as you need them, is there. And then also look at a HELOC as a tool to safeguard you for that first 10 years of retirement. Those are two huge ones.
What great strategies.
Yeah, I would say that the HELOC has been a critical tool just for me personally. I did have an adjustable rate HELOC, but I used it back when I wanted to be an entrepreneur and didn't have a job, to fund some of my real estate investments. And at the same time, now that rates are higher, I paid it down, but it's still a huge sum of money that basically provides a very comfortable security deposit or security blanket for me, because I know I need it if I needed it in an emergency, it's there for me. And at the same time, I can, keep my checking account balances low so that I'm investing in high income, high producing investments. And I don't have to, have a safety blanket and I also won't have to exit any equities if, the market's down, for example. So the HELOC is a super great tool. And it's been critical for me in my wealth building journey. Speaking of which, I just wanted to mention what I do with real estate syndications is slightly different than an REIT.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. It's just what I do is direct, and it's like you're actually own an apartment building. It's not publicly traded. It's privately owned. And I don't know, when do you want to talk about, Justin, like those folks who are starting out on thinking about their retirement?
Yeah, I think we're getting really close. Let's go. I saw Charles Ramsey's hand up. Charles, what are you share what you were going to say, and then I want to hear from Chrissy maybe one more time about just the tax ramifications of a HELOC, if anybody has concerns about that, if there's anything to be kind of watchful or at least kind of careful about. So go ahead, Charles Ramsey.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I just want to say my main advice for people is to take action. And first, you don't have to know how you're going to get where you're going. You just have to know that you want to do something to help your family be more secure, to have generational wealth potentially. And I was dabbling in real estate starting when I was 17. I negotiated my biggest deal. And because of being privileged to help so many hundreds of people, and all in different life categories and different stages in their life, different financial ability, and also buying and flipping investment properties myself, you can get it done if you have the right group of people helping you. I was able to get into a house one time. It was $2,000 total out of pocket when it was all said and done. And I had to be pretty creative about it. But if you have a creative team like we've gathered here tonight, and you tell them what you want, they will absolutely help you get it done.
I think this experience tonight with all of you should make everybody a bit envious of, like, my goodness, how my investment strategies could be so much more intelligent with the right people around me, right? Not just like the right people in silos, but the right people talking to each other. Like, this is kind of a magical experience. Chrissy, any thoughts from you? Obviously, you've heard a lot of strategies. Again, you've been helping people for 16 tax seasons. You've seen a lot of like people make very intelligent moves when it comes to investing, and some others that they probably wish they would have thought through a little more carefully before from a tax standpoint. Any insight or guideposts you can give to people when it comes to tax preparation, or I should say kind of tax, being tax wise?
Well, okay. So Dominic, that was a great strategy. I might borrow that for some of my clients as well, because the HELOC is a really great option because you can still deduct that interest on your tax return. And you just have to make sure you're not, taking the HELOC and paying off a credit card or something like that, that it's actually going to a home, a rental, or whatever you're going to do with it home-wise. That's the only caveat with doing the HELOC, is making sure that it's going to be reinvested into some sort of home where you can do the deduction. But I know that, so a lot of the clients that we work with are owners of their own S corporations, LLCs. And so working with financial advisors on what exactly the type of retirement plan that they should be in, what type of entity structure they should be. A lot of our clients are S corporations for a reason, so that they can get into solo 401ks. And so they can use their money to invest that way. Clearly, those are probably for the younger, with the returns that I'm hearing today. If you're getting closer to retirement, those are really great options. And it's just how risk adverse you are. Are you okay with putting into those type of investments when you're getting close to retiring? And we just had a client that signed on. He's about 5 years away from retiring. And one of the biggest things, and he has a lot of retirement buckets that he's been contributing to. So making sure that all of those buckets are full, so that when he does retire, he has pre-tax, post-tax. He has investments in properties. He has investments in other things as well. So just getting the whole picture of somebody and what they want to do going forward is really one of the best ways you can help them, whether they are 5 years away from retiring or 30 years away from retiring. And it's nice to see and hear all of these different strategies that aren't top of mind for a lot of people. In my industry, a lot of what we talk about are just retirement plans with a financial advisor. Some of the times we're talking to people about rentals, but we don't get together with somebody like Suja to set that up. So having these resources is a really great way to help our clients grow and retire in the manner they want to.
Love it. Thanks, Chrissy. Let's now jump to kind of our second, I should say, perspective, right? Is it now we have property owners, consumers who have a little more runway to prepare for retirement, right? So I'm going to kind of ask each of you if you could kind of wave your magic wand, or if you could go back in time and tell yourself when you were just getting started preparing for retirement, what's the best advice that you would have for that person that is just getting started? Let's start with Dominic. Since you went last time, we'll have you start first this time.
I think a big thing to follow up with what Charles Ramsey had said, it's take action, right? And start. The sooner we start in our savings investing journey, the more we can accumulate over time. And that's where all of these products come in handy. Of course, with Charles and mine, while there are options to come in with zero down, there are most of the time, new investors, they are going to need a sizable down payment, right? 10, 15%. And you don't have that maybe right away. So it's great to be starting with these options that Suja offers and Charles offers that have a lower barrier of entry. And as you're building your accounts with them, building up to maybe get that rental property, but it's that habit of saving. It's as simple as that. The earlier you start, whether it's a product that has a lower barrier of entry, meaning less per month, just get it going. And then if I'm going to go translate directly into like lending when we're thinking of buying our first property, my biggest thing with, because everybody's dream is to own a home, right? And it's very common in the United States to go, I want to buy this house, and eventually I'm planning on maybe getting my second house, which will be my forever home, or maybe the third one's the forever home. When you're purchasing that first property, it's very, very important to look at it as a potential investment property in the future. And the reason being is, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, or I believe it's Freddie Mac, just changed their guidelines where now we can have 5% down on a triplex, quadplex. And the reason why you want to see, okay, can I afford to put my 5% down, and with the rents I'm going to get from this quadplex, purchase this first? And the reason being is if I buy the quadplex first and I'm living in one, renting the others out, when I want to transition to a single family home, my underwriters and all lenders will allow you to make that transition and still put that low down payment on the next house. Where if the opposite happens and you go, hey, I want to get my single family residence, and then in 4 years you go, oh, well, now I'm going to go live in one of these units in the 4-unit. Underwriter, they're all going to go, no, there's no way. Why in the world would you want to go, switch from your single family residence to living in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath next to 3 other people? They're going to force you to take that into an investment loan with the higher rate, higher down payment. So if you're just starting, you're still renting, you're looking at that first property, really think about that first purchase being a potential rental down the line. That would be my biggest, suggestion.
Such great advice, Dominic. I think if I were to go, in fact, I tell my kids this, I said, your aim needs to be on buying a duplex, now triplex or quadplex, as your first property for that exact reason. I didn't have that guidance when I was younger, and I wish I would have. So it's my opportunity to now pass that along. I think that's great advice, the way you lay that out. And typically when you're just getting started, you're okay sharing some common walls, if you will, right? Whereas once you start to have a family, and that's not as fun. That's not as ideal.
Yeah, it's like if you already have that habit of renting and having the neighbors, deal with it for a little bit longer, being the landlord, and then go enjoy being, in the single family. Because once you go to the single family residence, you got that peace and quiet, and you can blast your radio as loud as you want. You definitely don't want going back to sharing the wall anyways. So right. Yeah, just the multi-unit's really important to think about.
Such a great strategy. And I think, again, one of the things that we discussed that we promise those that are tuning in is that this may not be for you. This may be an idea of legacy for you, looking to your children or grandchildren or nieces and nephews, or right, to be able to offer the wisdom of this strategy together with the expertise of someone like Dominic, together with maybe some funds to help them get started on that journey, right? And that could really compound into something significant over time versus buying them a car that's going to depreciate immediately, right? There's such better ways to really give people a real head start. Let's continue with Chrissy. That's exactly
really
what I was
quick. So talking about, giving to children, grandchildren, as I believe this year, and I've got to check, I'm always living in the past because of taxes, but it used to be about $15,000 that you could gift to an individual. So doing those, and that's, you're just giving that money. There's no tax implications on that. And giving them that money, they can use that for a down payment on that duplex. That could help with that. That could, help them invest in stocks. It could help them do something. In my family, that's one thing that when I had my daughter, my father-in-law and my father both contributed and were like, put this away, let it grow, and then once she gets older, she's going to have a nice little chunk to put down on a duplex. Now that's a fantastic idea to do the duplex or a triplex. And, I have family that's in college right now about to graduate. Well, what is she going to do? She's got the funds. She's going to be an attorney. And so, I'm trying to persuade her to become a landlord. And because I think it's the best way to grow your money.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome, Chrissy. Charles Chambry, let's go to you. I think, again, one of the things I wish I would have done for my kids would be to, looking back, giving myself advice would be to start one of these whole life policies for them early on, knowing that could be, the cash value could be used for weddings and college and all kinds of stuff, right? Is there anything else that you want to touch on with regards to that topic or some other insurance angle that we should be thinking about?
No, I mean, I would piggyback on that. I think, get a life insurance plan on IUL as early as you can, while your health is still good, because there's no telling how your health will be later on. To give you a personal experience, I had a heart attack a couple of months ago, and I work out 2 times a day. I work out in the morning, I do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and then I work in the evening doing all kinds of stuff. And so I never thought I would have a heart attack at age 43. And so just think about that you never know when something can arise. And a great thing about universal life insurance is that it has a living benefit. So it gives you cash value so that if you do get a heart attack or stroke, you do have that money to take care of yourself. So again, the advice would be to get a plan early while your health is still good.
And that's a really close to home scenario, right? I've just made a mental note that 2 workouts a day equal heart attacks. I'll keep that in mind.
Well, it's hereditary, so yeah.
That's one, it's impressive that you work out that much, and really probably a sobering concept for each of us to consider of like, nobody's off limits, right? Like being prepared is a good idea for everybody, even if there's no perceived or expected health concerns in line. So thank you for sharing. Great concept. Let's go to
I just wanted, maybe Charles, if you or Chambry, if you could elaborate a little because I have a whole life policy as well, and one thing that really I thought was awesome about starting it sooner than later, especially when we're thinking early on, is can you explain a little bit, Charles, how that premium just increases exponentially if you're starting later and later in life? So establishing it, my understanding is establishing that policy early on has that savings over time because you're able to starting at a younger age, right? You're able to have a better premium compared to if I jumped at it at 45. Is that correct, Charles?
Yeah, that's right. So you can get an IUL for children, and I've gotten folks or young people enrolled with a plan like for $10, as low as $10. And then the rates are based on age, as you said. So the older you are, the more it is. And so the benefit of getting it at a younger age is that you lock in that rate, and the rate stays the same forever as long as you keep the plan. So let's say the plan is $20, it's still going to be $20 for your whole life because it's a whole life policy. So great question.
Wow, $10 or $20. I had no idea it could be that low. So got a question from a favorite audience member of mine. Don is here. Don, yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Charles, in regards to the universal whole life, now, I think as you get older, obviously the life insurance portion of that escalates, right? Gets more expensive. However, the investment amount, you're not penalized in that respect, are you? So aren't they kind of two separate aspects or?
Right. So you have, yeah. So so you have your premium that stays the same.
Right.
That's
But
fixed.
let's
And
say
then
that I wanted a universal life and $500,000 in coverage. That's going to
Mhm.
be X cost. But then do I, if I want to invest over that amount, that the investment portion, or do you do that?
Well, you can get, like I said, you can get multiple life insurance plans if you want, and you can also increase the amount of the death benefit. So the death benefit, we had this question before, the death benefit is different than the living benefit. So again, the death benefit is different than the living benefit. The living benefit develops cash value, and that cash value gets interest, and that interest is 6 to 12%. So you don't really have control over that portion necessarily. And then other living benefits is the cancer, heart attack, and stroke. You get a lump sum payout.
Mhm.
So what I would say is that you could definitely just get another life insurance policy like that, or at some point, depending on your health, you can qualify to get more on the death benefit as money put away for you in case you die on the death side, right? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So again, just to say it one more time, is that what I would suggest is that you can get another life insurance policy, or you can add more on it, and this is under review, add more on the death benefit to be a great asset for you.
Got it. Thank you.
Great. Let's go to Suja. I know you've been kind of eager to share your advice for whether it be yourself or for younger people when they're just getting started on the investment journey, right? Kind of looking back and giving that advice to people early on. So we'll go to you, and then we'll wrap up with Charles Ramsey. So yeah, what thoughts do you have, Suja?
Yeah, well, of course, it's super important to be well diversified with your investments, right? So, but what I focused on is real estate syndications, and what I talked about previously was a strategy that usually older people prefer, which is they usually prefer a stream of income. What younger people typically prefer is to grow their assets overall and to grow them, as quickly as possible. So they're willing to forego that cash flow stream, or maybe a super reliable cash flow stream, in exchange for getting greater equity in a deal. And so we have common equity investments in real estate syndications, which usually we're targeting around an 18 to 20% average annual return. And that's a great opportunity for someone who's younger to really grow their overall nest egg much more quickly than they might grow it with other asset classes. And that's not to say every deal is going to perform just like that, but if you have a diversified portfolio, then usually we're targeting an average of around 18 to 20%. And another thing that a lot of our investors do is they want to have a little more control over their retirement funds. And so there's something called a self-directed IRA. And if you have a previous employer, so if you used to work for someone else and now you work for a different person, or if you fund an IRA on your own, you can transition those funds into a self-directed IRA and then invest them in a variety of things. Real estate syndications is just one of the options that you have, but you get to decide exactly where you want that money to go, which is not usually the case in typical retirement plans. Usually people don't exactly know what they're investing in. So that's something that also you can do if you have, like I said, a previous employer or your own IRA. And then, Chrissy mentioned solo 401ks. So you can also use solo and 401ks to invest in real estate syndications.
So many great ideas. I love it. Let's go to Charles Ramsey. Again, let's assume here you're counseling somebody who's on the very start of their retirement preparation journey. Right? There's some kind of uncharted, potentially even kind of rocky seas from an economy standpoint, depending upon the industry that you're in. There's some uncertainty as to what the future looks like long term. What advice would you have for someone like that has a long runway to prepare for retirement, but they're unsure how to navigate that? What would you say to them? Oh, we can't hear you, bud.
Sorry, muted.
Good.
How's that? I was very fortunate. When I was 23 years old, I worked with a gentleman who was in his mid 40s, and it was a friend of mine, and he bought a house, and he took me aside. He actually did a little intervention moment with me. And I think he realized that he wished that he had bought a house. This was his first house. He wished he had done it much sooner. And he just really like looked me right in the eye. He's like, this is so much easier than you realize. You have to do this. And I was like, he never steered me wrong, right? He never lied in any ways, strictly honest. And he usually was very understated. But that's the same advice I would give to people. And it ties into what I was trying to eliminate before. Decide what you want to do, and then find a team of people that help you do that. People that care about your success and who are masterful, and then they'll make it happen. And Suja, I wanted to thank you publicly for teaching me about how that's possible to tap into your retirement account and use it to make a much better investment, which I've done recently. Thank you guys as well, Don and Justin. But I would say one thing that young people don't mind nearly as much as older people in general is moving, right? If it's so much easier. I used to live out of a suitcase, and I traveled all over the place, and that's all I needed. I had a suitcase. I was couch surfing. It was
Can I call
great.
you right back? I'm at the end of a meeting.
Oh, and so what they don't realize is that they can do it. And the other thing is that if you wanted to really maximize your profit, you could move every 2 years and not have to pay any tax on your profit. So I kind of did this somewhat accidentally, where I was moving frequently, and I was able to take the profits from my first house and roll it into a much better house. I just kept doing that on and on until I had done that enough that I had enough left over from the profit to then buy investment properties. And then I started taking those investment properties and increasing the value of those over time. And so it's remarkable how you can just stair step up into a place where you're all set. And I had no idea this was going to happen. And it was just from studying relentlessly and trying to surround myself with the best possible advisors for the last 40 years. So
one thing that you emphasized, Charles, when we first came together on this idea of bringing these bright minds together, is that exactly what you just said, which is it's not as hard as it seems. And I think you were speaking even to maybe first-time home buyers, but I would believe that's maybe a theme that is a good one for everybody who's listening. Again, whether you're here live with us or listening to the recording after the fact, and that if you have the right professional, you get to vest into their years and years of experience, potentially generations of experience. We're talking about Charles Ramsey, right? Like all of this experience that these professionals have had now becomes yours by finding someone that you can trust. And as each of our professionals have shared tonight, of like, find people that you can trust and then share with them. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. This is what's important to me. This is what's not important to me. This is what I don't care so much about. This is what scares me. When you get those things out, especially with a group that's collaborative, you can really custom create something for you and for your family and for your legacy that's very reflective of your ultimate desires, of what you're trying to accomplish. That it's not as difficult as it appears. With the right experience, there really are some really simple solutions. It might be difficult for you trying it all on your own, but to have a professional there who's coached, dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of people down that path, it's no longer scary. So we are at the top of the hour. Are there any final comments that anyone wants to make? No pressure if you feel like you've shared what's necessary, but yeah, Charles Ramsey, please.
One parting tip for choosing the people that you're working with: ask them how they give back. Have them talk to you about how they've given back. And what I've found, and Don, I know you probably will agree with me on this, and well, everyone I'm hoping will. If you're working with people whose goal is to be generous, Their goal is to make more profit in their investments so that they can give back at a higher level. Almost guaranteed, that's going to be someone who's masterful at what they do. I think it sets them apart from the crowd. And it's so important to choose the right people and make sure they're absolutely the best you can possibly get your hands on. So
I love it. Having not just the right minds, but the right hearts working on your behalf. I'm going to ask the panelists if you'll stay with me for a bit longer. Let's wave a thank you and a good night to everyone who's been here with us. And thank you all for being here. And we look forward to, in fact, for those that are just here, why don't we have our panelists put their name and contact information in the chat. Of course, you can reach out to me, whether you're watching this on social media. If there's any particular professional who you would like a personal introduction to, I'd be more than happy to do that. Meanwhile, for those that are here live with us inside the chat, they're putting their contact info. These are great people to know, whether you're a professional and want to collaborate with these professionals, or if you're a property owner looking to employ one of their strategies, and you'd like their help and mentorship, and again, helping you to do so. Again, thank you to everybody for tuning in, and we will see you all soon.
Can I add one final thing, Justin? I'm so sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Dominic.
It's just, guys, the best thing to do is plan ahead, right? So I think Christina, as a tax professional, would agree with me. We'd much rather have somebody tell us a year ahead of time, this is what I'm hoping to do next year. Please advise me what to do properly so that I can be set up for that next year, with whether it's with lending, with real estate, with any of these. Our goal is to give you that information to help you prepare for the future. And even if that means you're not taking out a loan today, or you're not filing those returns until 8 months from now, if we're able to have that conversation ahead of time and guide you, we always almost end up with a much better outcome. And so, we're here for information and to help. And when it's time to use, everybody's respective products will be available, but we want to give you that information ahead of time so that you're properly prepared.
Love it.
100%.
Great advice. Okay. To all of our attendees, thank you